This is Money Guide with Mary Sterk from Sterk Financial Services. Now, here's Mary Sterk.
Welcome to Money Guide with Mary Sterk. And today our topic is 4 retirement expenses that might take you by surprise. We work with a lot of people in their retirement, and pretty consistently we find that there's some different things that maybe haven't been all the way thought through, or that just reach out and kind of take you by surprise in life. So we thought we'd talk about them today. With me I have Kelsey Bankey. Welcome, Kelsey.
Hello, Mary. Glad to be back.
Well, thank you. Kelsey is a certified financial planner with us at Sterk Financial, and actually this particular show was Kelsey's idea. She had kind of been keeping track of different things that people have been saying that kind of caught them by surprise, so we thought we'd do a show about that for you today. All right, so the first expense in retirement that might catch somebody by surprise is how much money it can cost for medical copays or long-term care related expenses. So I think a lot of people are very aware that there's going to be a lot of health insurance costs in retirement, but you might not be aware of just how big that can be.
Yeah, Mary, that's definitely when we talk to people all over the place, they're saying medical, being unsure about medical is one of their biggest fears in retirement, maybe even keeps them from going into retirement.
Right.
But even those that don't find that to be a big concern maybe don't realize that it's not a static expense. It's going to go up over time.
Right. And then one of the things that catches people off guard if there are clients who are wealthier is that the higher the income you have, the more like you are to go into what they call the donut hole with Medicare, where there's a price for Medicare, but if you make enough money, you have a higher price. Lucky you. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's a good problem to have because it means you're making a lot of money in your retirement, or you have a lot of income in retirement, but it can cause your Medicare premium to go up significantly, in some cases almost double for people. So the bottom line is to expect that the higher your income in retirement, the more your health care costs are likely to be correspondingly because of some of the way those things are set up. So there's also an issue with copays, and so what it costs to do different things in retirement. People think about their insurance premiums, but they don't necessarily think about the fact of what they have to pay that the insurance doesn't cover. So another area that often catches people off guard is the costs associated with long-term care. So it's really a much bigger deal than I think people realize in terms of hard costs in retirement. And we've talked a lot about, the pits and perils of long-term care. But if you think about it, most people want to stay at home. And so there'd be a cost for home health care. Then maybe if you do have to move somewhere, it's either an assisted living facility or a nursing home. And if you are unfortunately afflicted with dementia or Alzheimer's, you may end up in some level of memory care. And all of those things have a huge impact on your retirement savings and your retirement budget. So Kelsey's put together some statistics for us that I think will be very interesting to people. Kelsey, share those with us.
Sure, Mary. And so, as Mary just discussed, there's a lot of different ways to take care of a loved one if they're needing some long-term care, and just a few different ways. And I looked at a study from Genworth Financial that they did that actually has statistics on Iowa, so pretty good Midwest study here. And so for a home health aide, if you want somebody to come in and help you in the home, you're looking at about $30 an hour. If you're looking at assisted living, probably $3,500 a month is a pretty good average based on this study. Semi-private nursing home room is about $175 a day, and a private nursing home room is $187 a day. But I guess what I feel is the best information that they gave us out of this study is the 5-year annual growth rate. So what it's increased by over the last 5 years.
Oh, interesting.
Nursing home, those 2 nursing home rates have gone up by an average of 4% per year over the last 5 years. The home health aid was a little lower, and the assisted living was a little lower at 3% and 2%. So it is an increasing in expense. And if you are 15, 20 years away from that, planning for that number to go up by the time you need to use that kind of care is something you definitely need to plan into your retirement income.
Yeah, so that's kind of fascinating to me, because if the costs of long-term care facilities, nursing homes, things like that are going up on an average of 4% around where we live, that's more than double the rate of inflation. So, we can think about the fact that costs go up, but these type of costs are escalating much faster than other costs in the nation that you're going to be affected by in retirement.
Well, and also, inflation a lot of times has the impact on whether Social Security COLA happens, the
Yes.
cost of living adjustment, or other types of income for you. So it's really important to be aware that your costs are going to go up and making sure that you have assets that can allow you to pay for those increasing costs. If all you have is fixed incomes that have no potential to go up, you're going to start seeing a deficit at some point in your retirement.
Yes, that's true. So we have a seminar coming up on January 12th, the Retirement Readiness Seminar, and we do kind of a deep dig on what to expect for healthcare costs in retirement and how to kind of protect yourself against them and how to set up your income planning so that you don't have a illness become a devastating part of your retirement plan for your spouse. So join us. You can go to SterkFinancialServices.com and register for that. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk about that's a retirement expense that can kind of catch you by surprise is something that I have had personal experience with catching me by surprise. And that is all of a sudden needing to be in a position where you're financially supporting either your children or your grandchildren. So this is actually something that is an increasing trend that's happening more and more specifically with grandparents today, and that the grandparents are taking an active role in either completely raising a child or at least financially contributing to their grandchild's welfare. So the reason I say that this one's kind of near and dear to my heart is that I have a grandson, my most favorite little person in the world. He's 4 years old now, but when he was born, shortly after he was born, his mother got very, very ill, and she was ill for a very extended period of time. So I literally, when he was 6 weeks old, got a phone call that said, you need to help take care of this baby, and all of a sudden, overnight, I had a baby. Now, most people have 9 months to prepare for this. I had 3 hours to go shopping at Target and buy everything that I thought I would need to take care of a baby for a while. Yeah, that was kind of crazy. But the thing about it is, not only did I become financially responsible for my grandchild for the better part of a year, because his mother was too sick to be able to take care of him, I also was financially responsible for her, So all of a sudden, both my child and my grandchild were someone that I was taking care of. Now, I'm very happy to do it. I'm very, glad that I had the opportunity to bond with my grandchild that way. But if all of a sudden you're adding things like a daycare bill, formula, diapers, things like that, or you're having to help if your child or grandchild's living somewhere else, if you all of a sudden became responsible for their rent and living expenses, all of a sudden that can be $25,000 to $35,000 a year out of your pocket that you didn't expect to spend. Now, I also have a number of clients who had adult children that developed drug problems, and then they weren't able to take care of their own children. So all of a sudden the grandchildren came and lived with the grandparents. And, it's a heartbreaking situation when that happens. But the concern that I have is this is actually a growing trend while we see more and more grandparents actively taking care of grandchildren. So I just want people to think about that when they're looking ahead at their retirement of what's the potential for that to happen, and do you need to add anything into your budget for that reason?
Congratulations to Mary Sterk and the team at Sterk Financial for earning a spot on 2 Forbes lists for 6 years running, including 2023 Forbes Best in State Wealth Advisors and 2023 Forbes Top Women Wealth Advisors Best in State, #1 in South Dakota.
Welcome back to Money Guide with Mary Sterk, and today we are talking about 4 different retirement expenses that might surprise you. So the first one that we covered was that there are medical copays and long-term care expenses that can oftentimes be much bigger than you had planned for in your retirement income plan. So that's something to look out for. And the second thing that we talked about was this growing trend where people in retirement are increasingly becoming financially responsible for both their children and or their grandchildren. So those are a couple of expenses that might surprise you. What we're going to talk about third is how inflation and the increase in basic costs of living have a major impact on people's retirement. So here's the thing. Everything's going up. And we're all living longer. So it's like a double whammy, right? Now, inflation over the last 40 some odd years has been maybe in the range of around 4% a year. But if we just look at a smaller segment, which is maybe the last 10 years, it's been a lot lower than that, right? It's been under 2% for sure as an average, a lot of years under 1%. But that doesn't mean that things are not going up. So, a crystal clear example is in 1979, the cost of a stamp was 15 cents, and now it's a lot more expensive than that. It's more than 3 times that. So, the thing about a strong retirement plan is that you have to plan for these things to go up.
Yeah, and Mary, a stamp maybe doesn't seem very significant in your retirement planning, but let's pull out a couple other examples, and they're both related to driving. So when I was 16, which was a while ago, maybe not that long ago, but when I was 16, I remember specifically filling up my tank in my car with gas at 89 cents a gallon. And I know many listeners out there have seen it way lower than that, which is fantastic. However, in recent years, we've filled up as high as $4 a gallon. That's inflation right there. And then I think even a more, bigger example that will just kind of knock you off your socks a little bit is most 80-year-olds today are paying more for their most recent car purchase than they did their first house. I'm going to tell you right now, if I pay in my 80s what I paid for my first house for a car, it better fly and drive itself.
It definitely will probably drive itself for sure.
Yep, I think that is realistic. But that's very real. Those are just 2 examples, and it's not just parts of your life that'll experience that increase. It's everything in your life, your food, your healthcare, your automobiles, your homes, your clothing, everything is going to cost more. And there's not really anything we can do about it except for plan for it. So you can't keep the costs from going up, but you can plan for it because you know it's going to happen.
Yeah, so here's the thing. If you think about it like this, if you think, oh, the cost of something is doubled in the time that you can remember, right? Or the cost has tripled. Let's say that you have a retirement income now of $100,000 a year. If the cost of everything doubles, then that means you need $200,000 a year now just to buy what $100,000 a year used to buy. And if it triples, it means now you need $300,000 a year to keep up with that. So that's a little bit of a bigger thought for people to wrap their minds around than, oh, the price of gas went from 89 cents to $4 a gallon. But if you apply that to what your actual life is and your spending is, that's why this inflation can kind of take a lot of people by surprise.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is the longer we're living just amplifies that inflation factor. So the average 65-year-old today is going to live, up to 89. Now that's statistically half. So half of people will likely pass away before that, and half of people will pass away sometime after that. Just going down to age 56 for a male, an age 56-year-old male today is statistically going to live to 94. So again, half of 56-year-olds today are statistically going to die after they're 94. So if you're retiring in your early 60s, as that seems to be the trend right now, you're going to spend 30 years in retirement. That's a lot of inflation happening on your plan. So please, please, please just consider it in your planning.
Yes, very good advice. So we have built a great tool for people to kind of help understand how this impacts them. And it's part of our strategic retirement toolkit That toolkit includes a lot of things if you're thinking about your retirement, but one of the things it does do is addresses what you need to spend in retirement. You know, what is the lifestyle you want to live? And then we can tie that to inflation and kind of show you how much of an impact that has. So just go out to our website at SterkFinancialServices.com and you can download that strategic retirement toolkit. And that probably will give you a really good eye-opening view of what to plan for in retirement and what kind of things you need to be aware of as you're leaning towards that next phase of life. So, okay, the next surprise, the final surprise of our show today, of an expenses in retirement that may reach out and surprise you, is renovations or remodeling of your home.
Ooh, this is a big one.
Yeah, this is something that not a lot of people think about. Okay, so here's the deal for you listeners out there. Have you ever remodeled your house or done anything with a home renovation and come in on or under budget?
Can't
I
say
bet
I have.
there's very few people that can say yes to that answer. So even the best laid plans with a remodel or renovation usually end up over budget and overspending. But even if you don't, renovations can often be unexpected. So like, what if all of a sudden you have to get a new roof and you weren't expecting it? Or what if your furnace, stops working? Or one of the ones that I had really derail somebody one time was that their driveway cracked. And then when they went to fix it, they actually realized there was a massive issue with the pipes underneath of it. And so not only did they have to rip out the entire driveway, they had to rip out all those pipes and they had to relay everything. And it was tens and tens of thousands of dollars to fix this. So unexpected things like that can derail a retirement plan, even the best laid plan. So, Kelsey, you had some experience with your parents with what they did with their home before retirement. I thought this was a really good example.
Yes, my, mom and dad, they're smart ones.
Yes,
smart
they are.
cookies. And so they aren't retired yet, but they have been spending, the last probably 5 to 10 years just preparing for retirement, preparing for the fact that they won't have all the same access to income that they have now, and they'll be living on more of a fixed income supplemented by some accounts. And so they've looked around their house and said, okay, what is going to need to be repaired in the next few years? They've also looked around the farm, same thing, and then said, okay, how are we going to set this up so that when we retire, we're in the best place we possibly can? Now, that doesn't mean if they retire in 5 years, they're never going to make another repair to their house, but they've really tried to identify what is it that they want their house and their property to look like, and they're taking care of all those expenses to the best that they can now. So, they put in a new deck. They built their house back in the 80s, and the deck was, pushing 30 years old a couple years ago. And so they put in a new deck and they remodeled some bathrooms and just all those upgrades that after 30 years, when you build a house, when you're just getting going in the world and you maybe didn't spend the money that you wish you could have spent, they're going back and making some of those changes. And I think that's a really smart move to do it now, as opposed to when you're living probably more on a budget than you are when you're income producing activities.
One of the other things I really liked that Kelsey's family did was their family farm is very clearly the hub of where people gather. And so they actually renovated their home a little while ago and added more bedrooms, more space. So where kids maybe didn't have as much room when they were growing up, now kids that come home with spouses and grandkids have more room to stay, more room to spread out. And since their home is the hub of the family, they wanted to have it be set up that way for the way they want to experience their family life.
Yeah, they added on when most of us were almost out of high school and people
Right?
thought they were crazy. But now that they have, 10 adults coming home and it'll be 8 grandkids here by the end of the month, coming home, having that extra 2 bedrooms and the extra bathroom and the extra space is definitely great. And, they're also the only people living in the area for both of my grandparents' sides too. So my mom has actually become the person who has the meals at Thanksgiving and at Christmas and holidays. And so they had just the best vision for this, and they were definitely on the ball. And so think through those things. There might be some things you can do now that you'll really be happy that you did later.
Absolutely. And some things that might catch you off guard later related to this are health-related renovations. So if you get into a situation where you need a ramp because you can't do stairs in your own home, or if you need a hospital bed in your home, or if you need to take down walls to make room for a wheelchair or something like that, all of these renovations that would allow you to stay in your home if you have a health issue can be very expensive. So those are some things to think about as you ponder your own retirement. So the advice that I have with this is that all of these things have potential to reach out and surprise you. And if you think that they are going to impact you, then it might make sense to have some reserves set aside for the potential of this to happen. So reserves set aside for potential house changes, due to health reasons. Reserves set aside in case you have to help out a grandchild or a child, things like that. And I think that would be really great to start thinking about now. So we have a retirement seminar coming up on January the 12th. We are going to do a good deep dive into there about what are the things that people need to think about to plan for their retirement when it comes to spending and healthcare related things and things like that. So go out to our website, register for that. It's at SterkFinancialServices.com. And while you're out there, download our Strategic Retirement Toolkit. We'll email it right to you, and that'll give you some good tools to think about that help you prepare for these retirement expenses that might surprise you.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of your audio provider and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities or services mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can ensure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should only be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Securities and investment advisory services are offered through Woodbury Financial Services Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Insurance offered through Sterk Financial Services, which is not affiliated with Woodbury Financial Services Incorporated. Neither Woodbury Financial Services Incorporated nor its representatives provide tax or legal advice. You should consult a qualified attorney or tax professional to answer your specific questions. Sterk Financial Services is located at 350 Oak Tree Lane, Suite 150, Dakota Dunes, South Dakota, 57049. And can be reached at 605-217-3555.
Forbes' Best in State Wealth Advisors list includes 10 recipients per state. The award is based on qualitative and quantitative data, rating thousands of wealth advisors with a minimum of 7 years of experience and weighing factors like revenue trends, assets under management, compliance records, industry experience, and best practices. The award is not based on portfolio performance or client reviews. There is no fee in exchange for rankings. Third-party rankings and recognitions are no guarantee of future investment success and do not ensure that a client or prospective client will experience a higher level of performance or results. These ratings should not be construed as an endorsement of the advisor by any client, nor are they representative of any one client's evaluation.